Have you ever found yourself sitting quietly in your favorite chair, feeling more alone than ever, even when surrounded by family or friends? Maybe you've noticed your muscles aren't as strong as they used to be, or that restless nights keep you tossing and turning. It's easy to tell ourselves, that's just part of getting older. But what if it's not? What if the loneliness many of us feel after 60 isn't simply because we're slowing down or losing touch? Scientists are starting to understand that loneliness isn't just an emotional feeling. It affects our brain and body in ways we often overlook. It quietly chips away at our health, energy, and even memory, yet it's a topic many avoid talking about. But it doesn't have to be that way. In this video, I want to share with you 5 simple habits that help me break free from that quiet loneliness and learn to truly love life again. These aren't grand gestures or complicated routines, just everyday things that anyone can start doing right now. So, if you've ever felt that ache of isolation or wondered how to bring more joy and connection into your days, stay with me. By the end, you'll have some gentle tools to help you feel more alive and connected, because you deserve that at every age. If you are not subscribed, subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. If you don't, please comment 0 to let me know how I can improve and make better videos for you. Now, let's begin. 1. I started each morning with purpose. There's something achingly familiar about waking up to a quiet house as the sun just begins to peek through the window blinds. The room is filled with the hush of early morning, the gentle ticking of the wall clock, the distant hum of a passing car, and maybe the sound of birds outside if it's spring. For so many of us past 60, mornings can feel heavy, sometimes even a little pointless. Maybe you wake up before your spouse, or perhaps you live alone, and the only thing greeting you is the soft glow of dawn and a growing sense that another long day stretches ahead. You might reach for your phone out of habit, scroll through some news, check the weather, or maybe glance at the photos your daughter sent of your grandkids last weekend. The routine is the same, nothing urgent, nothing pulling you out of bed with excitement. You tell yourself, this is just how life is after retirement. No more morning rush, no emails needing a reply, no lunches to pack for the kids or meetings to prepare for. It's a quiet freedom you once dreamed of, yet sometimes it feels strangely empty. It's easy to think this feeling is just a natural part of growing older, one of those invisible adjustments no one prepares you for. But what if it doesn't have to be that way? What if those first minutes of the day, the ones you spend lying in bed thinking of nothing in particular, could shape everything that follows? Could it be that the emptiness isn't inevitable, and there's a different way to step into your mornings? One that brings a sense of meaning, even if your plans for the day are small? For years, I thought my lack of motivation in the morning was just part of getting older. I'd hear friends say, I'm not a morning person anymore, or, my best days are behind me. The world seemed to shrink a little more with each passing year. But then I started reading about how our brains, and even our bodies, respond to purpose, no matter our age. Scientists have discovered that having a sense of purpose in daily life changes our brain chemistry. It helps release dopamine, the same feel-good chemical that lights up when we accomplish something meaningful, whether it's big or small. More than that, researchers from Rush University Medical Center in Chicago found that seniors who reported a sense of purpose were not only happier but also healthier. They had lower rates of cognitive decline and were less likely to suffer from chronic diseases. The body, it seems, responds to purpose almost as if it's a medicine, helping to regulate our immune systems, lower stress hormones, and even protect the heart. It's not just about positive thinking. It's about rewiring our mornings to nourish both mind and body. The science made sense, but I still struggled with how to bring that sense of purpose into the practical details of daily life. After all, most of us aren't suddenly going to run marathons or start new careers at 70 or 80. What does purpose look like for someone who's done their share of big life moments and is now facing quieter days? It turns out, the purpose doesn't have to be grand or complicated. It's about creating small rituals that give you something to look forward to, a reason to greet the day instead of just letting it pass by. For me, it started as simply as this. Every morning before I even got out of bed, I would close my eyes, take a slow, deep breath, and ask myself, what am I grateful for today? Sometimes, it was just the fact that I woke up without pain in my knees. Other times, it was remembering that my neighbor Mary would be stopping by for coffee, or that my favorite rosebush was about to bloom in the backyard. From there, I began to make a short list. No more than 3 things I wanted to do that day. These weren't earth-shattering tasks. One might be to call my sister and catch up, another to water the tomatoes in the garden, and another just to walk around the block and wave at familiar faces. Having that tiny list gave my mornings a sense of direction, a gentle nudge that the day was waiting for me to step into it. I found that once I had a reason, no matter how small, to get up and move, the heaviness I felt in the mornings began to lift. The emptiness was replaced by a quiet anticipation. I started to notice the light slanting across the kitchen table as I made my coffee. I paid attention to the birds that gathered on the fence, or the way the trees swayed in the wind. I found myself more eager to call friends or visit the local library, simply because I'd already decided that was part of my plan for the day. One of the most touching examples I've come across is from a friend named George, a retired firefighter from Ohio, who found himself adrift after his wife passed away. 4 months. His mornings were a struggle. He'd wake up, stare at the ceiling, and wonder how to fill the endless hours. "I felt invisible," he once told me. "Like the world was moving on without me." It wasn't until his granddaughter asked him to help her with a school project, a birdhouse made out of old wood scraps, that something shifted. Suddenly, George had a reason to get out of bed. Each morning, he'd look forward to the project, gathering tools, sanding pieces of wood, and planning little details. That simple act gave structure to his days, and before long, he was building more birdhouses, and then donating them to neighbors and the local elementary school. The transformation wasn't dramatic, but it was profound. George says those quiet mornings in the garage, with the scent of pine and coffee in the air, gave him a sense of usefulness he thought he'd lost forever. It reminded me that I still had something to offer, even if it was just a little birdhouse, he laughs. You don't need a workshop or even a particular skill to create that sense of purpose. Maybe it's knitting a scarf for your grandson, tending a small vegetable garden, or writing postcards to old friends. Maybe it's simply making it a point to sit outside for 10 minutes each morning, letting the sunlight warm your face. The habit itself isn't important. What matters is the intention behind it, the gentle discipline of choosing to start each day with something that matters to you. It's easy to dismiss these little rituals as unimportant, but their effects add up over time. Studies show that older adults who engage in daily purposeful activities report higher levels of well-being and lower rates of depression and anxiety. Even the act of setting a daily intention has been linked to better sleep, improved memory, and a greater sense of connection to others. The truth is, none of us outgrow the need for meaning. Retirement and aging might take away some of the roles that once defined us, employee, parent, provider, but they also open up a space for new ways of being. You get to decide, each morning, what purpose means to you now. Maybe it's reaching out to a friend who could use some company, or maybe it's learning something new just for the fun of it. The world is still full of opportunities, even if they're quieter or closer to home. Of course, there are days when it's hard. The weather is gloomy, your body aches, or the loneliness feels too heavy. That's normal, and it's okay to give yourself grace on those days. But even then, try to find one small thing to be grateful for, or one tiny goal to accomplish. It might be as simple as making your bed or brewing your favorite tea. Over time, those small acts accumulate and begin to shift the way you see your mornings, and your life. I know this because I've lived it, and so have many others. The gift of purpose doesn't belong to the young or the busy. It belongs to anyone willing to claim it, in whatever way fits their life. So tomorrow, when you open your eyes and the house is quiet, take a deep breath. Ask yourself, what can I do today that will make me feel glad to be here? Write it down if you need to, or just hold it in your heart. And remember, you don't need anyone else's permission to make your mornings meaningful. The first step is always yours to take. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. If you try this gentle habit, you might be surprised at how much lighter your mornings become. The sense of purpose you create will ripple out, making each day a little brighter and a little more joyful. And before long, you may find yourself looking forward to sunrise again, not because of what you have to do, but because of what you get to do. Life, after all, still has so much to offer, one purposeful morning at a time. 2. I reached out to old friends, even just to say hi. Have you ever found yourself staring at the phone, scrolling through your contacts, only to put it down without calling anyone? Maybe you linger a little longer over the names. old friends from work, neighbors you used to see every week, childhood buddies who now live states away. There's a bittersweet comfort in seeing those familiar names, even as the silence between you grows wider with every year. For so many of us past 60, this has become a quiet ritual. We think, it's been so long. What would I even say? Maybe you worry about being a bother, or you tell yourself, they're probably busy with their grandkids, their travels, their own lives. So you close the phone and turn your attention to the TV, a crossword, a puzzle. The day passes, and the silence stretches on. It's easy to believe this distance is just what happens with age. Life moves forward, and people drift apart. We accept it as normal. That's just the way things go. But what if it doesn't have to be that way? What if, instead of drifting further apart, we could choose to bridge those gaps, even if it's with a single, simple hello? Here's something you might not know. Science shows that reconnecting, even in small ways, can bring unexpected joy and even improve our health. The Harvard study of adult development, one of the longest-running studies in history, has followed thousands of people for decades. Their findings are remarkably consistent. Relationships are the single biggest factor in lifelong happiness and health. It doesn't matter if those relationships are with family, friends, neighbors, or even a friendly cashier at the grocery store. As we age, it's easy to let connections slip away. But the research is clear. People who nurture their friendships, even if only occasionally, live longer, healthier, and more joyful lives. Social contact, even briefly, triggers the release of oxytocin, sometimes called the bonding hormone, which eases stress and boosts mood. And here's something else. You don't have to pick up where you left off or have hours to talk. Even a simple hi is enough to light up the brain's reward centers, both for you and for the friend you reach out to. Loneliness, scientists now know, isn't just an emotional state. It can be as harmful to health as smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. That sounds dramatic, but it's true. Just as we make time for a walk or a healthy breakfast, making time for a friendly hello is a powerful medicine for body and mind. The trouble, of course, is making that first move. The longer you wait, the harder it seems. I remember the first time I reached out to my old friend Jim after nearly 10 years without contact. Jim and I were once as close as brothers, neighbors who shared backyard barbecues, fishing trips, and countless coffee mornings. But life happened. Kids grew up, jobs changed, wives passed away. The phone calls became fewer, the visits stopped altogether. I told myself, he's probably too busy. Or maybe he's forgotten all about those good old days. But one chilly November morning, after hearing a story on the radio about how a simple greeting can brighten someone's day, I decided to try. I picked up my phone, found Jim's number, thank goodness it hadn't changed, and typed, "Hey, Jim. Just thinking of you. Hope you're well." I stared at that message for a long time before finally pressing send. Minutes ticked by. My heart pounded. I wondered if I'd made a mistake. Maybe I was interrupting something important. But then, a reply. "Wow. You just made my morning." I was going through old photos and found one of us from that camping trip up at Lake Erie. "We need to catch up." Just like that, the ice was broken. We didn't have a long, deep conversation right away. But that short exchange sparked something. Old memories, shared laughter, and the simple warmth of being remembered. Within a few days, we set up a call. Within a month, we'd met for coffee at our old diner, sharing stories like no time had passed at all. It isn't always easy, of course. Sometimes the person you reach out to won't respond, or the conversation might feel awkward at first. But I've learned that just the act of reaching out matters, both for you and for them. You see, most of us are waiting for someone else to make the first move. We're all carrying our bundles of memories, regrets, and what-ifs. But when you're the one who breaks the silence, you're also giving a gift, not just to your friend, but to yourself. If you're wondering how to get started, keep it simple. You don't need a long message or a clever excuse. Here's a gentle, practical way to do it. Pick one name from your contacts, someone you haven't spoken to in months, maybe even years. Send a short note, "Hi, I was just thinking about you and wanted to say hello. Hope you're well." If you don't have their number, send a card, an email, or even a letter. There's something special about receiving a handwritten note in the mailbox. If you're not sure what to say, try reminiscing about an old memory you shared. Remember those afternoons playing bridge at the community center? Don't worry about what comes next. Sometimes the best moments come from the simplest starts. And don't feel you have to reconnect with everyone at once. One old friend at a time is plenty. Some people will be delighted to hear from you. Others may not reply, and that's okay, too. You've done your part in reaching out, and you never know, they may be waiting for just the right moment to write back. Let me tell you about another friend, Eileen, who lived down the street from me for years. Eileen was a nurse, a tireless volunteer, and the sort of person everyone turned to in a crisis. But after her husband passed away, she grew quiet. The laughter faded from her house, and even her garden seemed less colorful. One afternoon, I ran into Eileen at the grocery store. She looked tired but managed a smile. "I miss having someone to talk to," she admitted quietly. "Sometimes I go a whole week without a real conversation." I offered to come by for tea the next morning. She hesitated, then said, "You know what? That would be nice." That one cup of tea turned into a weekly tradition. We talked about everything and nothing. Recipes, childhood stories, the antics of her mischievous cat. Before long, Eileen was reaching out to others too, joining the knitting club at the senior center, and calling her old college roommate just to say hello. "I didn't realize how much I missed hearing familiar voices," she told me. Her smile came back, and so did the flowers in her garden. When you reach out, you aren't just passing the time. You're reviving connections that have the power to heal, to inspire, to remind you of all the chapters you've lived and the people who shared them with you. It's never too late to rekindle old friendships. Those shared memories, those little jokes and stories, are a treasure. Sometimes they're the spark you need to bring a little light into a lonely day. As you sit reading this, maybe you're already thinking of someone. Maybe you wonder if they remember you as fondly as you remember them. I promise you'll never know unless you try. So, tomorrow, when you find a quiet moment, scroll through your contacts or flip through that old address book. Find one name. Send a message, make a call, or write a short note. You might just be surprised by how much joy a simple hi can bring, not just to them, but to you, too. We all get older. Our circles may shrink, but our hearts can still grow. Each time you reach out, you're proving to yourself that it's never too late to make a connection, to rekindle a friendship, to remind someone and yourself that you're still here and you still care. Start small. Start today. And remember, you're not alone. Sometimes all it takes is reaching out, even just to say hi, to begin loving life again. 3. I got outside, even when I didn't feel like it. Some mornings, I'd find myself sitting at the kitchen table, wrapped in my old blue robe, looking out the window at a world that felt just a little too far away. The sun would be climbing over the rooftops, the trees shifting in the breeze, but I was content to stay right where I was, warm, safe, and tucked inside. It's funny how, as the years go by, the outdoors can start to feel less like a playground and more like something for other people. It's too cold, I'd say. It's too hot. Or maybe I'd convince myself I was just too tired, that I'd get outside tomorrow instead. And I know I'm not alone in this. For many of us over 60, our homes become our castles. Comfortable, familiar, filled with memories. After decades of busy schedules and noisy families, it's tempting to think we've earned the right to slow down, to retreat a little from the hustle and bustle outside. But at some point, the walls can start to close in. The same 4 rooms, the same routine, day in and day out. Before you know it, you're watching the seasons change from behind glass, feeling a little more distant from the world outside, and maybe, if you're honest, a little more distant from yourself. But what if getting outside, even for just a few minutes, could do more than you imagine? What if those small moments in the sun and wind are more important than you think? Most of us assume that the benefits of being outdoors are for children, athletes, or folks who love hiking. But the truth is that fresh air, sunlight, and the natural world offer something deeply healing for all of us, especially as we get older. Recent research has uncovered what ancient wisdom always hinted at: our bodies and minds are wired for nature. Just 15 minutes outside can lower blood pressure, boost vitamin D levels, and even brighten our mood. Scientists at Stanford University found that seniors who spent time outdoors, even if it was just sitting on a bench or walking slowly down the block, reported feeling less depressed and anxious. Exposure to natural light helps reset our body's clock, making it easier to sleep well at night. Believe it or not, simply being around trees and plants can lower levels of the stress hormone cortisol, helping us feel calmer and more connected. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. But for most of my life, I didn't think much about these things. If anything, I took nature for granted. As a child, I spent entire afternoons playing stickball in the street or riding my bike down dusty trails, coming home only when the sky turned pink. Later, I worked hard, raised a family, and sometimes hardly noticed the changing of the seasons. It was only after retirement, when the pace of life finally slowed, that I realized how easy it is to let the outside world slip away. At first, it was just a little excuse. If it rained, I'd stay in. If my joints ached, I'd tell myself I should rest. After all, who would I meet on a walk except for the neighbor's dog? It felt easier and safer to settle in with a crossword puzzle and a cup of tea. But after a while, I began to notice how much I missed the feeling of the sun on my face, the simple pleasure of a breeze on my skin, the soft crunch of leaves underfoot. I missed being part of the living world, rather than just observing it from afar. That's when I decided to try something different. I promised myself that every day, no matter the weather, no matter how I felt, I would step outside for at least 10 minutes. Some days, that meant sitting on the porch swing with a blanket around my shoulders, watching the morning light slip through the trees. Other days, it was a slow walk to the mailbox or a gentle lap around the block. At first, it felt a little forced. I'd find myself counting the minutes, wondering if it was worth the effort. But then, something shifted. One morning, as I was about to turn back inside, I spotted a cardinal perched on the fence, its feathers bright against the dull gray sky. Another day, I caught the smell of fresh-cut grass, and it brought back memories of mowing the lawn with my father decades ago. Sometimes I'd wave to the mailman or nod at a neighbor walking her dog, sharing a small smile or a few words. Little by little, those tiny moments began to stitch my days together with something warmer, something alive. There's a wonderful story about a woman named Ruth, who lived down the hall from me in my first apartment complex after I retired. Ruth was in her late 70s, sharp as a tack but rarely seen outdoors. "Too many steps," she'd say, shaking her head. "Too much effort." But one spring, her granddaughter planted a patch of sunflowers outside her window. As the days grew longer, Ruth started propping open her door, watching the flowers grow taller by the week. Eventually, curiosity got the better of her. She'd shuffle outside, just to check on them, leaning on her cane as she fussed over each new bloom. At first, she'd stay for only a minute or two. But by midsummer, Ruth was spending her mornings outside, chatting with neighbors, feeding the birds, and reading the newspaper in the shade. She told me, with a smile, that she hadn't felt so much a part of the world in years. Her days seemed brighter, her stories grew longer, her laugh echoed down the hallway. All because she'd taken those first hesitant steps outdoors. It doesn't have to be a big production. You don't need hiking boots or a mountain trail to enjoy the healing power of nature. Sometimes, it's enough to sit on your porch and listen to the wind. Other times, it might be taking your cup of coffee outside instead of drinking it at the kitchen table. You can stroll down the sidewalk, water the plants, or visit a neighborhood park just to watch children play. If you're feeling ambitious, join a community garden or sign up for a gentle walking group at the local rec center. The point isn't distance or speed, it's about making space in your day to reconnect with the world around you. Of course, there are days when it's tough. Maybe you wake up with stiff joints or the sky is gray and threatening rain. Maybe you worry about slipping or feel self-conscious about being seen moving slowly. On those days, remember that every step outside is a victory, no matter how small. You can start by simply opening a window, letting the fresh air in, or standing in the doorway and taking a few deep breaths. The important thing is to permit yourself to show up exactly as you are. The science tells us that the benefits will follow. Seniors who spend regular time outside are less likely to feel lonely or isolated. They tend to move more, sleep better, and experience fewer aches and pains. Their minds feel clearer, and their spirits lighter. And while it's true that nature can't solve every problem, it has a gentle way of reminding us that we're still part of something beautiful and ever-changing. Looking back, I realized that those first hesitant walks weren't just about exercise. They were about hope. The hope that even when life grows quieter, there are still new sights to see, fresh air to breathe, and simple joys waiting right outside the door. The world may look a little different as we age, but it's still ours to explore. So the next time you catch yourself gazing out the window, wondering if it's worth the effort, I encourage you to give it a try. Put on a hat, grab your cane or walker if you need it, and step outside for a few minutes. Feel the sun on your face, listen to the birds, and breathe deeply. Let the world remind you that you're still here, still part of the dance of seasons and sunlight and song. And if you ever need a little extra encouragement, remember Ruth and her sunflowers. Remember that sometimes, the smallest steps can lead to the brightest days. Each time you open that door, you're giving yourself the chance to discover something new. Not just in the world around you, but within yourself. There's a kind of quiet bravery in choosing to step outside, even when you don't feel like it. It's a reminder that life doesn't end at the doorstep. It's still waiting for you, just beyond the threshold, in the fresh air and the open sky. So go on, give yourself that gift. Let the outdoors welcome you, heal you, and remind you every day that you belong to the world, and it belongs to you. Even a few minutes can make all the difference. You might be surprised by how much brighter everything seems, simply because you took that first step outside. For I gave something even when I felt empty. There are days, especially as we get older, when it feels like life has taken more than it gives. Maybe you felt it too, that strange hollowness that can settle in after the kids are grown, the career is over, or old friends move away. The house feels a little too quiet. The routines are the same, but something inside feels missing. Sometimes you look around and think, what do I even have left to give? This isn't something we often talk about. In a world that values youth, energy, and constant activity, it's easy to believe that once you slow down, your contributions no longer matter. You might find yourself thinking, let the younger folks handle things, or I've already done my part. It's a story we tell ourselves to protect against disappointment, the idea that we have nothing left, that giving is for other people. But what if that isn't the whole truth? What if the simple act of giving, no matter how small, has the power to fill those empty spaces? Could it be that when we share a little bit of ourselves, even if we feel we don't have much left, something beautiful happens? Science gives us a gentle nudge in this direction. Research has shown that volunteering and acts of kindness create a ripple effect, not only brightening someone else's day, but also changing our brains and bodies for the better. When you give, even something as simple as a smile or a kind word, your body releases feel-good chemicals like oxytocin and endorphins. These chemicals boost your mood, reduce stress, and even support heart health. One study from Carnegie Mellon University found that older adults who volunteered regularly were less likely to develop high blood pressure. A subtle reminder that doing good is, quite literally, good for you. But the benefits go even deeper. Giving connects us to something larger than ourselves. It reminds us that we're not alone, that we're part of a story that continues even as our chapters change. When you give, you make a mark on the world, a mark that says, I'm still here. I still matter. I remember one winter, not long after my husband passed away. The holidays were coming, and the house felt emptier than ever. I tried to keep busy, baking cookies for the neighbors, and writing Christmas cards to friends near and far. Still, it seemed like I was just going through the motions. My heart wasn't in it. One night, as I sat at the kitchen table, the phone rang. It was Sarah, a young mother who'd recently moved in next door. She sounded flustered. I know it's a lot to ask, but would you mind watching Mia for an hour while I run to the store? She's been under the weather and I don't want to take her out. For a moment, I hesitated. I was tired, and honestly, I felt too worn out to be much help. But then I looked around the living room, saw the quiet, and realized I could give something, even if it was just my time. When Mia came over, she curled up on the couch with her stuffed bunny. I made her some hot chocolate, and we watched an old movie together. She didn't say much, but as she was leaving, she looked up at me and said, "Thank you for taking care of me." In that simple moment, I felt something shift, a lightness that had been missing for weeks. I realized that giving, even when you feel empty, is a way of inviting life back in. It doesn't have to be a grand gesture. Giving can be as simple as waving to your mail carrier, offering a listening ear to a friend, or sharing your favorite recipe with someone who's just learning to cook. Maybe it's knitting a scarf for a neighbor, bringing a small plant to someone in the hospital, or reading to children at the library. The important thing is not the size of the gesture, but the spirit behind it. Take my friend Bill, for example. Bill is 83, a retired mechanic with hands that still remember the feel of a wrench. He has lived alone since his wife passed, and for a long time, he kept to himself. But last spring, after hearing about a local food pantry in need of volunteers, Bill decided to help out. At first, he just sorted cans and stocked shelves. He didn't think much of it. But then he started chatting with the folks who came in. Single parents, seniors on fixed incomes, even teenagers just trying to get by. Bill found himself offering advice on car repairs, helping people carry groceries, and, sometimes, just listening to their stories. I didn't realize how much I needed it, Bill told me one afternoon. Giving my time, my attention. It filled a space in me I didn't even know was empty. If you're wondering how to start, begin with something small. Look around your life. There's always someone who could use a hand or a kind word. Maybe you bake an extra loaf of bread and bring it to a neighbor. Maybe you call someone you haven't spoken to in a while, just to check in. Maybe you offer to babysit, walk a friend's dog, or write a thank you note to someone who's made a difference in your life. You don't have to wait until you feel ready. Sometimes the act of giving comes first, and the feeling of fullness follows after. It's like a garden. You plant seeds in faith, trusting that something will grow, even if you can't see it yet. The truth is, we never really run out of things to give. As long as we're here, we have something to offer. A story, a smile, a piece of wisdom, a bit of time. And when you give from the heart, you receive more than you expect. The world opens up a little, and so does your own heart. If you ever doubt it, remember that everyone has moments of emptiness. We all feel lost or tired sometimes. But giving is an act of hope, a small rebellion against the idea that we're finished, or that life has passed us by. Each time you reach out, you're sending a message to the world and yourself, I still care. I still matter. So, if today feels quiet, if you're wondering what you have left to offer, try giving something. Anything, no matter how small. You may discover that in giving, you receive the very thing you thought you'd lost. Life, after all, is a circle of giving and receiving, of empty spaces being filled and full hearts overflowing. You're not alone, and you're not done. There's always someone who needs what only you can give. So go ahead, reach out, offer a hand, share a smile. Even when you feel empty, especially when you feel empty. You might be surprised at how quickly your own heart fills up again. Let this be your gentle reminder. You have more to give than you know. The world is better for it, and so are you. 5. I stopped judging my loneliness, and started honoring it. Loneliness. It's a word that feels heavy, doesn't it? For many of us over 65, it's a quiet companion that sometimes visits uninvited. You might feel it sitting beside you in the evening, or the spaces between phone calls and visits. It's that deep ache, the sense of being unseen or unheard, even when people are near. And yet, it's often a feeling we don't talk about openly. Maybe because it feels like a weakness, or something to be ashamed of. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. For years, I tried to push loneliness away. I told myself I shouldn't feel this way. I have family, I'd think. I have friends. Why do I feel so alone? Sometimes, I'd distract myself with TV or busy work, hoping the feeling would just disappear. But the truth was, the more I judged my loneliness, the heavier it felt. Like trying to hold down a balloon underwater. The harder I pushed, the more it fought to rise. But what if loneliness isn't the enemy? What if, instead of judging it or trying to bury it, we learn to honor it? To sit with it, listen to it, and understand what it might be trying to tell us? This was a new idea for me, and it changed everything. Science now shows us that loneliness is not simply a state of mind. It's a signal, much like pain, alerting us to a need for connection and self-care. Neuroscientists explain that loneliness activates the same parts of our brain as physical pain. That ache you feel isn't imaginary. It's real, biological, and important. Ignoring it or shaming ourselves for it only deepens the wound. When I began to treat my loneliness with kindness, allowing myself to feel it without judgment, something shifted. Instead of running from the feeling, I would pause, breathe deeply, and say to myself, "It's okay to feel this." I started to journal about my days, my memories, and what loneliness might be teaching me. Slowly, the feeling became less of a burden and more of a doorway, inviting me to explore my own heart and what I truly needed. Honoring loneliness doesn't mean resigning to it. It means recognizing it as a messenger. Sometimes, it reminded me to reach out to old friends. Other times it pushed me to try new activities or simply to rest without guilt. It helped me appreciate the moments of quiet, the beauty in solitude, and the strength in vulnerability. I met a woman named Helen at the community center who shared a similar journey. Helen told me, "For years, I thought my loneliness meant I was broken or unlovable. But once I stopped fighting it and began accepting it, I found peace I didn't know was possible." She began volunteering at a local library, not just to keep busy, but to find connection and purpose on her terms. It's natural to want to fix loneliness quickly, to fill it with noise, company, or distraction. But sometimes the most healing thing we can do is simply sit with it, honor it as part of our story, and permit ourselves to feel. That gentle acceptance creates space for growth, healing, and eventually, connection. If you're struggling with loneliness, remember this: you are not weak, broken, or alone. Your feelings are valid, and honoring them is a brave and beautiful act. The path out of loneliness often begins with kindness, to yourself and to the quiet spaces within. So the next time loneliness visits, don't rush to push it away. Welcome it gently, listen to its message, and trust that, in time, it can lead you toward a deeper connection with others and, most importantly, with yourself. You deserve peace, you deserve understanding, and you deserve to honor every part of your journey. As we come to the end of this journey together, I want you to remember something truly important. Loneliness after 60 is real, but it doesn't have to define you. Through small, simple habits, starting your mornings with purpose, reaching out to old friends, stepping outside even when you don't feel like it, giving even when you feel empty, and learning to honor your loneliness, you can rediscover joy, connection, and meaning in everyday life. Each step may seem small on its own, but together they create a powerful path forward. They remind us that even in the quietest moments, we are never truly alone. Life still offers countless opportunities to grow, to love, and to be loved. I've shared these habits not because I have all the answers, but because I've lived them, and I know how much they can help. Whether you're sitting alone right now or feeling overwhelmed by change, I want you to know there is hope. Your story is still unfolding, and you have so much to give and receive. So I encourage you, try one of these habits today. Maybe reach out to an old friend, or take a slow walk outside and feel the sun on your face. Notice how even the smallest act can brighten your day. Please share your thoughts below. What habit resonated with you? Have you found other ways to cope with loneliness that bring you peace? Your story might be just what someone else needs to hear. If this video touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe so we can continue supporting each other. Remember, you are seen, you are valued, and you are not alone on this journey. Together, we can find light, connection, and love at every age. Thank you for watching, and here's to loving life again.